Pledge, please. Mr. Tripp, could you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
A moment of silence for the men and women in the armed forces, our first responders, and those brave men and women who are fighting the fight for Ukraine. Thank you. Okay, I'd like to call this meeting for the Town Council to reconvene for tonight, Tuesday, March 1st.
I'd like to reconvene the Board of Finance meeting on March 1st, 7 p.m.
And do we have anybody on the phone tonight?
Chris Cosgrove's here.
Thank you, Councilman. Anyone else? Okay, just Councilman Cosgrove. First one, do we have any public participation? Walter?
I saw no one sign up
Okay.
unless there's somebody that wants to speak. I
Okay.
guess not, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, and Steph, we have Mike coming in? Yep. Okay, so we'd like to start with Noreen, Town Clerk budget, please. Page 14 for our revenues. And as we have been so far, we'll let Noreen present all the way, then any questions we can ask Noreen after. Noreen?
Clerk. This is a town clerk's budget for 22-23. We're starting with revenues. Historic documents, 15,000. Local capital improvement projects, 10,000. And then revenue from the municipal clerk fees around 675,000. That includes recordings, conveyance tax, licensing, copies, just all the fees we charge. Okay. Then expenditures, we have personnel, we have the town clerk, the deputy town clerk and land records, the assistant vital, town clerk. Personnel, so that totals 186,871. And then we have overtime in the budget for $200 for any tax lien season or, special projects. We have contractual services, $3,200. That covers the general code for our code books we have to do every year and do supplements and updates. And then we have the historic preservation, which is $7,500. And then expenditures, we have for material supplies, we have our indexing for all our land records of support for the company who puts our records online and, scanning, just everything from them. We have the supplies for our Canon printer, shredder, timestamp, just different equipment in the office. We have training, we have office supplies of vitals and binders, paper, toners, and then we have a line for legals for our publishing of legal notices and ordinances, and then we have $100 in petty cash. So that total is $42,300. So the total expenditures is $236,947. So the summary of the total of revenues is $700,000, and the total expenditures is $240,071. So the profit for the town clerk's office we bring in is $459,929. And I don't know if anybody has any questions.
Thank you, Noreen. Any questions for Noreen?
Yeah, I have one.
Yep.
Noreen, this is Chris. So thank you for the job you and your team do. You guys do a wonderful job.
Thank you.
Just a question on the increase in the municipal fees. Is that based on an increase of costs?
Yes, the binders are costing more, the paper's costing more. We're bringing in, doing a lot more recording. So we're going through the books.
I think what Chris means is the 35,000 increase. That's going to be conveyance fees, Chris. We've seen a significant amount of increase in conveyance fees over the last 2 years.
Yep.
Okay.
So we're just adjusting that upwards as that's more likely going to be the scenario moving forward.
Got it. Okay, great. Thank you.
Sorry about that.
Diane?
Thank you. Did we not process any passports this past year?
We're not doing the passports anymore because the passport clerk is no longer with us.
Oh.
So it's going through the mayor's office.
And you'll see in our revenues, Diane, we put 9,000 in for revenues for passports. We're doing it through the mayor's office now.
Great, okay, thank you.
One of my questions was already asked and answered, so good. How are you?
I'm good.
Good. And then the other is historic document preservation. Is that, can you tell me a little bit of what
Yeah,
that
we
is?
get a grant from the state every year for $7,500, which last year I used for shelving in the cage in the vault for all vitals to utilize more space. I use it to restore old books, whatever. Every single year I use it. So that we get every year from the state.
Right. So is there any digital record keeping? Are things switching to digital, or does it all have to be paper even now?
Oh, no, our records are online.
Okay.
We scan them every day.
Right.
They go back to, I think, 65, 63, the index. All our maps are online. I mean, all that is digital, but we still have to keep the hard copies there. It's
Okay,
just
that's the question
state
then. Okay.
library, still have to do that.
What happens when you run out of room?
I don't know, we'll see, you know.
I've been to the
I-
room. It's packed.
Yeah, it is, but we're still good.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thanks.
thank you.
Any other questions for Noreen?
Thank you. Several of my questions were already answered as well. I have one additional one. Just to clarify, I see that paper and binders are listed on 2 different lines, and I just wanted to confirm that they're different kinds of paper and binders.
They
correct?
are.
So
Yeah,
some
one
are
is-
for the formal books. that
Yes,
The records are kept in,
yes.
some are general office supplies, correct?
Right, some binders are for the vital records, the death certificates, the marriage licenses, the birth certificates, and the other binders are for town meeting books, land record books, trade name books, yeah.
Perfect.
There's
Just
2
wanted to
different.
confirm. Okay,
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks.
Any other questions for Noreen? Thank you, Noreen.
Okay, thank you.
Next, Jason, the youth
Thanks,
agency.
Noreen.
Thank you.
Easy button, Noreen.
Escape,
That was easy button.
what's that? Oh my goodness. Escape and typewrite. Just that I could get to you where you
Oh, thanks, Noreen. I think you gotta minimize and go to the file.
yeah. There you go.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone, members of Town Council, Board of Finance members. My name is Jason O'Connor, and I'm the Executive Director of the Milford Youth Agency. Before I get into the budget presentation that the Youth Agency is, I would like to just set an understanding of what the Youth Agency is, some of our core charges, and what we do here in town. I promise this is the only thing I'm going to read. The New Milford Youth Agency, this is our mission. We create, coordinate, and foster programs which promote protection, welfare, and well-being of all youth in the town of New Milford. Through prevention, intervention, and advocacy, our agency fosters positive youth development, provides opportunities for youth to become responsible members of the community. With that said, we are not only a town municipal department, we are also an acting youth service bureau. With that, we are charged with state mandates, as well as certain guidelines and perimeters in how we act. And that allows us as well to get state funding through the Youth Service Bureau state funding. So with that, again, we're directed by general state statutes within the state on certain parameters, charges that we're responsible for. We're charged with the planning, evaluation, coordination, and implementation of resources and opportunities for children, youth, and their families. We are responsible for the provision of services and programs to all youth, as well as vulnerable and marginalized populations, to positively and to function as responsible members of the community. With that, that is the basis of who we are and what we wish to do in the town of New Milford. These are an overview of our programs. The youth agency has a vast amount of differentiating programs that we are all extremely proud of. We have 11 full-time staff, as well as 35 usually on the board part-time seasonal youth employees, up to 50 a year. I'd like to highlight some of these opportunities. You may know of our largest program in town, which is our child care program. That was a before and after school child care program within the 4 schools. Within that, we have an average of 135 students that participate within that program. And then within the continuation to the summer, an additional 110 students with an average of 75 per week for an 8-week summer program. And each day is an 11.5 hours per that program. Substantial. Moving on, we're charged with handling juvenile review board and truancy, as well as the diversion. So with that, we are a diversion program for restorative practices for first-time youthful offenders through the Juvenile Review Board. This is an absolutely phenomenal program that we can give youth a second chance within our community and get them back on track and looking forward. In that operation also, we help with truancy referrals that come from the New Milford Public Schools, and we work with the schools to see how the community-based Youth Service Bureau can help those children get back into the academic environment. Additionally, on that, more of a positive youth experience is our youth leadership and advocacy, and it's been a wonderful opportunity where members of this board and town council have been able to see some of the student advisory board members come to your meetings and give a youth report. That is a new charge we have here, is to implement as many opportunities where youth can get leadership positions here in town. Those students are extremely important to our youth agency in the sense that they meet once a month. They give a full update to myself as well as our board of directors on the pulse and climate of youth, their opinions, and what programs the youth agency should offer. 2 of those student members sit on our board of directors. We offer various parent workshops upcoming. We have one on underage vaping, as well as internet safety and cyberbullying. Our counseling, and this is something I know I myself, my board directors, and our staff here in town is extremely happy to offer and proud to offer. In June of this last year, coming out of the COVID-19 pandemic, I worked with the mayor's office to see how the youth agency and the YSB could provide for our youth. Since then, we've been offering no-cost counseling services to adolescents here in town, focusing on the middle school and high school population. I could go on on all the wonderful stuff we do here, but I would like to highlight our video program. These students are amazing. There's about 3 to 4 of them that work to promote or to create not only, say, underage gambling PSAs, mental health PSAs, vaping PSAs, but they do funny, quirky stuff. They go to our child care sites. They truly document the heart of the agency. So with that, that's truly not everything, but it's some of the hallmarks that I do like to acknowledge here with the youth agency. The youth agency, the total revenue we do return is up to 69%. So, and that primarily comes from our child care program, which is dollar for dollar revenue to the expenditure. That organization is a $0 balance. Thanks. With this is looking at, and I know for you, the team here, you see it as expenditures and revenues differently. So I will look at, if you would like, Mayor, for me to do revenues and then do expenditures.
Absolutely.
Okay. Under the youth agency organization, we have one source of revenue, which is the state grant, and that is roughly a $20,000 grant, with a $10,000 enrichment and enhancement opportunity on that. The town is mandated to match that, only the main grant. So that's the only source of revenue for the youth agency org. The max, we have a self-sustaining max account. And with that, this is going to be the biggest update to the budget that you will see within the youth agency in totality. myself, my board, and again, working with the mayor's office, we have been looking to increase the facilitation and utilization of that building, especially with no longer the opportunity of an on-site max supervisor. So we have totally made it kind of similar to rentals at JPCC, in other town buildings where it's self-reliant, individuals pick up keys, and it maintains itself. And so we also run, that revenue is substantiated by rentals throughout the year as well as max dances.
Jason, also, with your new model for the max, you're also now allowing people to
Kitchen.
rent your commercial kitchen,
Correct. The max does have a commercial kitchen, so if you're looking to cook your turkey dinner or anything there, you know, we rent it out and you can surely have a great meal. So I had the breakdown just to help provide an understanding of what that revenue and the change of it.
So in our books, Jason, just if we're looking at the revenue, it would be page 37.
Got
So
it.
you're looking at an adjustment of a reduction going from 67,000
Correct.
to 35,000, which is a differential of 32,000, but, which I'm sure you're gonna show everybody else, the
The
expense
expenditure.
line is down, way down.
Way down. And that again is in the change in the operations there, where we used to be able to run many more, say, you spend $1, make $1 programs, where this is a self-operating building now, and now we can have that generate a wealth for the town of New Milford in the sense that that organization now is actually making money as a total of $13,000 when we'll get into the expenses later. But that revenue breaks down to an average about 5 dances that we operate for youth, roughly making $1,200 per dance. And that's running our kitchen, snack bar, as well as the 12 months worth of rentals with an average of $2,500 a month for a total of $30,000. That's where we get that $35,000 in revenue.
And Jason, not to continue to interrupt you.
No, you're
I
fine.
apologize to everybody to do this, but also just so we know, there's also the school, Litchfield Transition School, that we've partnered with the Board of Education, that's housed in there. So during the daytime, we have a school, special needs school in there as well.
Correct. That's the transitional school for adult special ed students with the purpose to help them transition to adulthood and into later stages of life. The third revenue that we have is our child care, formerly known as Latchkey. That is our before and after school as well as our summer child care program, and that is a revenue of $579,260.87. You will see a decrease from last year, but that decrease comes that we're not spending as much to run the program. We look to become more efficient in staffing as well as make other adjustments. So that is why there is a decrease in revenue, which also means there's a decrease in expenses because this is the dollar for dollar organization.
I know, Jason, I know the council, we talked about this, especially when we were in the deep throes of COVID,
Correct.
when the schools were basically going to a full hybrid model.
Mm-hmm.
Just want to continue to thank your team because you pivoted
Thank you, Mayor.
and you actually stood up a brand-new childcare during the daytime.
Exactly.
So that people that had jobs that needed childcare, you were actually there to help facilitate that.
Yeah, to elaborate more on that, that was I think we took a month off when COVID hit, and that was to plan and see how we were going to do it because people set out to work as well as need that full day program. So we transitioned from a truly before and after school program to a hybrid model where we offered before and after school care, full day care, and then the total care throughout the week. At times, for when the schools were all remote, we were based out of John Pettibone. All of our staff really rose up, including myself. I found out what it's like to have to handle a 5th grade or a 5-year-old's math homework, another 5-year-old's English homework, as well as doing, painting. I don't ever want to do that again. I want to stay with my level of stress and experiences. The flexibility it needs to have, 3 kids on you, focusing on 3 different. So all the kudos to the teachers and to all the other childcare centers that do that direct service care.
And I know, Jason, another thing you did that we continue to do today was we had found that the child care providers in the commercial sector really were missing a lot of communication, especially as it was coming from the schools. There was that break. And so you and Brian actually have set up weekly calls with our commercial child care centers and with the Board of Education, Superintendent Corpo, so we can have that streamlined sense of communication. So again, Jason, thank you, and to you and Brian for spearheading that.
Yeah,
and that continues today.
It still continues, and thankfully, we're moving away from a weekly to bi-weekly and hopefully on a monthly basis. But yeah, that stemmed out of the constant regulations changing between State Department of Ed and Office of the Childhood, who governs child care centers, and SDE, who governs education, working with the centers and the schools to collaborate the conversations. And that's one of the things the youth agency does do in the sense of helping regional collaboration. I myself is the acting representative for the Northwest region of youth service bureaus. So I am the chapter rep for essentially Region 5, and I coordinate monthly meetings for our area YSBs, looking at different trends, programs they offer within the region. But yes, the youth agency does act as kind of a hub to coordinate resources and direct those services. Personnel, personnel, we're at $273,835.91. Fixed charges, consultants, materials and supplies, that went down to be a little bit more efficient. That part, self-sustaining youth grant, again, that includes not only the grant plus the match, as well as the enhancement. That's why you see that at 50,908 as compared to the 30,840, for a total of $306,003.91. I think I did have a clerical error on the personnel. I think it was off cents or dollars. So yours may read $273,836.12, where this reads $273,836.12. So yours is correct. There's a minor clerical error there. Max, again, you will see some substantial changes in the expenses. And again, that is based off of the strategic plan there, looking at how that max operates, how we can be more efficient, and how the max can make increased revenue when compared to expenses. With that, we went from $4,500 worth of personnel, which included the part-time site supervisor, to looking and streamlining it to $5,000 for youth and $4,000 for adult culinary caterers. Those youth are employed, and they are employees at our max dances and the various catering events we do. And again, we are one of the largest employers of youth and college-age students in the town. Contractual services, that is our funding for police officers to cover events of over 100 people or more, basically our teen dances and any other maybe Battle of the Bands events we do have. Max materials and supplies, we'll also see a decrease here as the max has transitioned into facilities maintenance. So we have $500 worth of building supplies, $1,600 to cover the internet Wi-Fi, and $2,000 for program development, printing, and supplies needed. And then the max parts of self-sustained account, that takes into consideration of the food, various materials and supplies that we do need to buy to, say, put on the veterans dinner, other, get out to vote initiatives, the food needed for teen dances. That's what that is. And again, you're going to see the substantial difference in the sense that was a $50,000 item last year, and we've since made it a $4,000 item. So again, last year the max cost the town $106,000, where now it's making the town $13,000.
Wow.
Childcare, latchkey. For expenses, it's essentially unremarkable in the compared to last year's. You will see some savings in staffing, as well. I mean, as in our part-time staffing. Again, Brian and I worked on looking to make the program more efficient, but that doesn't mean it's still not an incredible program. During the school year, we staff 1 to 7. Summer, we staff 1 to 6 because we travel so often. And I'd like to just provide for town council and Board of Finance members the costs per family. So again, AM, PM, it's $150 a week. That comes down to $4.40 an hour for 5 hours. PM only, that's 5.25 hours. That's 3.25 hours, and that's $5.23 an hour. And then Scattercoke only, as we do not have a before care program there, but we have extended PM hours because it gets out. That's 4.25 hours of care at $4.70. Substantial service provided for not a lot of money. And going into the summer, weekly fees for our summer program, that is an 8-week program, and it's a traveling program as well. We do 2 to 3 field trips a week with the kids, whether it's going to Quasi, Lindeming, Extreme Play, Beardsley Zoo. We half travel, and that cost breaks down to $3.48 at 11.5 hours of childcare. Again, substantial. And the site supervisors make up that with 4 full-time site supervisors with the, again, additional 25 to 30 seasonal staff that make up that team. Expenses for the materials and supplies. Buses, we have a contract with Allstate, and that's $1,000 a week busing, and that allows us to go onto these field trips. The trips in itself are built into the cost at $28.50, but that is built into that $3 essentially cost. So a lot is provided to these youths for not a lot of money. The summer staff ratio, that's where I was getting. It's a 1 to 6 ratio because we do travel a lot. And trying to think of anything else within the materials and supplies. Oh, there is a roughly a $4,000 increase, $4,590 increase from the MyRec registration software. And that's because it's transitioning to the youth agency's account from IT's account. We are now responsible for that, as well as Parks and Rec. We both utilize that online registration system. The very cool thing is that self-sustaining program down there. $2,000 worth of it is to provide after-school enrichment opportunities, and that is through our culinary opportunities, robotics opportunities, and various other after-school, including blacksmithing up at the farm we utilize. The other $7,500 is for child care scholarships that we started in the last budget, and that was built in to working with New Milford Social Services to do means testing to provide families who cannot afford it, either full or partial scholarship within our program, depending if it's summer or the academic school year. And within the last fiscal year, we've scholarship 24 families into this program. Thanks to this budgeted money, as well as I kind of lost for words, but our partners at the United Way Community, Connecticut Community Foundation, and other people who have, provided us with grants to go after, to help sponsor these kids and get them into childcare. That's it. So I don't know if you would like to do revenues first and then expenditures, if you want to go by organization, but I'd love to answer questions or elaborate on anything more.
Katie?
Jason, thank you very much. You didn't do yourself full justice when talking about during the COVID time when you and Brian set up the daycare, childcare all day. Mm-hmm. I think that the liaisoning with the childcare providers in town, which was lacking any real coordinated effort from the school system. So if you can imagine your child gets on a bus leaving school but needs to go to a daycare, and at that time, many of them could only take a few kids or they were closed, they had no idea if the child was coming, not coming, and it was a bad situation. And not that it was anybody's fault, it was really not preventable considering what was going on. But I was part of those weekly calls, and I have to say that the inroads made from that between the school and all the child care providers in town was just remarkable, and will continue, and is still continuing. And I know that many parents sent up a very loud hallelujah that was finally figured out, because you can't think of anything worse than finding out your child needs to be picked up someplace, but you didn't know, or whatever, and the child care center didn't know they were coming or not coming. So I really think that you and your staff, not that you should necessarily pat yourself on the back all the time, but you should, because there's a lot of things you didn't mention here that those of us involved know about, and you all deserve, you and Brian, Stacy, everybody, can't think of
Thank
all
you,
the
Katie.
names, Din, and you're great. You do a wonderful job.
Thank you,
Don't
appreciate
ever
it.
go anywhere, okay?
Mr. Mayor.
Tom? Or Chris?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Jason, I've got to tell you, seeing you a couple years in a row here, I am so incredibly impressed with what you've done with the youth agency to help more kids and to find areas to adjust your budget to offer more services and a greater reach for many families here. I'm just incredibly impressed with your administrative style and the accomplishments that you and your entire team have, and I'm going to support your side of the budget here very enthusiastically. Thank you for your time, and thank you for the fabulous efforts for the youth of this community.
Thank you, sir.
Any questions, Amy?
Thank you, yes. I appreciate all of the areas that you pointed out, trying to be mindful of budget and looking for ways to be very nimble. With regards to the scholarship for child care program, is this an area where in your heart you feel that this is sufficient to cover the need? Because I know that there have continued to be conversations over childcare expenses, and obviously with COVID, it has still affected people's work schedule. Is that an area where you have put in what you think is going to meet the need for the year, or was this an area where you were also trying to be nimble, but in your heart you feel we may need more to service the need?
Thanks for the question. I think as of now, I think we can meet the need by utilizing outside grants in addition to this money,
Okay.
which we have been able to get. But again, those are not guaranteed. This again is the second year we are looking to offer scholarshiping in this sense that it's town funded. So my answer is I would go through this year, see if it was substantial, especially coming out of the COVID, because I feel like COVID put an extreme level of need on childcare, and maybe that was an outlier. Maybe the $7,500 is sufficient. Maybe it's not. Maybe we need to utilize more outside grants or additional town funding. But I would say it is an appropriate amount as of now, as long as the agency can continue to go after local grants and opportunities to help substantiate that funding.
I think to piggyback on that too, Jason, with the ARPA funding that was approved by the town council and the board of finance, Walter, and then at town meeting, we have $100,000 for child care assistance. So if there was a need this year or the next year, we have that ability as a cushion to help
Correct.
those families that are struggling.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Mike?
Mike?
Yeah, quickly, you didn't list any Sullivan Farm revenue, is it just that small that it's not worth putting in?
Sullivan Farm has been removed from the youth agency, so.
Oh, it's not you at all?
No, so you
Oh,
have the
that's why it's
privilege of
zeroed out,
Mark's
okay.
presentation, I think, tomorrow. It's completely,
It's their own now.
it's just historically, it was part of us, so that's why you see those
I got
line
you.
items there, and it's all zeroed out.
All right, and how, I mean, with your budget, how hard is the minimum wage going up? affecting you? You have to hire less, or?
It definitely does affect us because I believe it's July 1 this year.
Yeah,
but-
no, isn't that nice how they keep bringing it back?
Yeah, exactly. And so, eventually it's going to be $15. We've been able to build a program around it without, as you could see, increasing the cost to parents. That's been using probably all mine and Brian's intellect on how we can do that to keep those costs down. So
That's not a lot either, is it?
You got me there.
Yeah.
No, so again, maybe as of now, we've been able to adjust and kind of overcome that issue.
And are you going to have enough help? I mean, I know everyone's having a tough time finding workers. Are you going to have enough help this summer?
That is something that we've been able to, I guess, succeed in, is that we have enough high school staff as well as college staff that do return in the summer months, as well as, say, in the winter months for when the college kids are out. But still, it's everyone knows childcare is an essential program, and hiring qualified staff is always a need. So we're doing good right now, Mike. But there are times in the year where we do need to find increasing staff, or we need additional staff, and we kind of have a big hiring. We go to the schools, we push it out that we do need kids, because sports happen, so you lose kids to sports. This month, God bless them, but the play is happening, so we're probably going to lose kids to the play. So then we're going to have to find college students maybe in the area to fill those. But that's just the normal business that we do.
You figure it out at school.
Yeah.
Now, is there a wait list to get in, or is everyone that wants it?
There usually is a wait list. There's a wait list currently for, we're over more the way through the school year, but there's a wait list for Hill and Plain and Sarah Noble. What's it called? Attendance there, Hill and Plain is 30 students. Northville is an additional 30 students. Scotticoke is 10 to 15. It's just the kids are older and there's not that much need. Well, there's a need, but it's not many kids. And Sarah Noble, though, is 60 kids.
Now, you can't go up, you have to go up by chunks, so if you...
It's the space allotted to us,
Okay.
too. So we are operating within those schools. So that's as basically much as we can, because we just don't have the room. But usually there is a wait list for Hill and Plain as well as Sarah Noble. And depending on the summer, because the summer, a student can attend 1 week or they can attend all 8 weeks. So sometimes, the week of July 1st is a low week, and then following it, you get all 90 kids that registered. So,
All right, thank you.
you're welcome.
Nice job, Jason.
Thank you, Alex.
Quite impressed.
Appreciate it.
I had a lot of questions. You answered them all in your presentation. But the minimum wage came up. My background is summer youth camps,
Okay.
and hiring is a huge issue. And a lot of camps have chosen to offer paid internships as a kind of carrot that seems to be paying off.
Mm-hmm.
So something to think about. And I'm going to offer my help as a volunteer if you need it, because I know how to do camps. I've actually trained for summer programs
Phenomenal.
in New Milford years ago.
Okay.
So it's tricky because you have to follow so many regulations that are locally mandated,
Mm-hmm.
right? Health regulations.
Sure.
And the only thing I had a question about was the max and the kitchen. Do you have to have food service qualified people in your kitchen to use it?
Yes, and when we're, like for our events, my staff is serve safe as well. So when we're doing our kitchen use for the staff, whether it's snack bars or whatever, we have our serve safe. But for rentals, we're a licensed kitchen, so we are covered for those rentals.
Great,
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
You're very welcome. And building on that, we went for a grant with the State Department of Ed this year, this last fiscal year, and it was a substantial grant. It was $25,000, and that helped us within our summer childcare program. Not only hire more kids, but it helped transportation costs, and we also were able to work with Fairfield University and get a college student that was stipend to work with us too. So it's just going after grants, and a lot of them exist, and it's doing that grant work.
Yeah,
So
yeah, that's a career of itself.
yes, it is.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
I just have one question. The thing you read in the beginning, it was sort of a mandate.
Yes.
Where was that from exactly?
So that's the state statute that kind of, or not kind of, that lists what a youth service bureau is, the responsibilities, because that helps then guideline the state funding for it in the state grant for the youth agency. So if you're interested, it's Connecticut General Statute, section 10-19M.
M as in Mary.
M as in Mary, 10-19M. And that's what kind of defines a youth service bureau. Many of them are municipalities, some are not.
And then do you report to them on certain metrics like mental health and addiction stuff?
So we have to do an annual report for data, and that now data report goes to DCF. It used to be DCF, then it went to State Department of Ed, now it's DCF again. They're the ones charged with they send out the money, and then they do all the data collection.
Great.
So with that, in the pandemic, I just pulled up some of the stats. We were able to serve 361 individual youth who registered for individual programming through 33 different programs, as well as an additional 575 youth and parents for non-registration. An example, many of the youth who attend, say, childcare, you name it, they then come in, participate, or work for us later. So yes, we do have to do data reporting to the state.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Stephanie?
Jason, who's here? There are no Ginny. Who else is?
Maureen Price, she is our chairperson.
Did she escape?
She just escaped. So maybe she's excused herself for a moment. But Maureen Price is our Youth Agency Board of Directors chairperson. And then Ginny Landgreed is a member of the board of directors.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Jason?
No, just a huge thank you.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you all. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jason.
No problem. Have a great night, Chris.
Thanks, Jason.
Next is the library.
I don't know which one. Oh, it's right above me.
And Lorna, before you get started, can you let the council and the Board of Finance know who's in the audience with the
Yes.
library as well?
So actually, before I get started, anyway, I wanted to thank all of these people, everybody who has helped to make our construction project possible, the Friends of the Library who have been so supportive of us over the years and who have continued to rent a space to allow us to do programming all through construction, the Board of Trustees who have spent 20 years trying to bring this project into being and have supported it right on through.
And raised $1 million for the project.
And raised $1 million, that's right. Mr. Mayor, and Katie, and our building and furniture committees who have managed the project and have been keeping it moving forward, and to my staff for, keeping things up and going in unusual circumstances, to say the least. So thank you, everybody. Yeah. Thank you for having me tonight, Mr. Mayor and Town Council and Board of Finance. So the town of New Milford voted to build a modernized library, and in response to that vote, we have dedicated a considerable investment to the construction of an updated library building. And it's a well-placed investment because this library is going to be a destination point, as well as a draw to residents. It adds value to our town. And I have an example here. I know somebody who is currently looking for a house in town, and they sent me a copy of the real estate ad, And it says, minutes to town center, shopping, hospital, restaurants, and soon-to-be-completed renovated New Milford Public Library. So it just goes to show this is a draw to people coming into our community. Even with our building closed last year, and with limited staff hours, limited hours and limited staff, we still managed to circulate 57,425 items. People used our online database services like Consumer Reports, Foundation Directory and Grants to Individuals, and occupational testing practice through our Learning Express library 5,478 times. 54% of people in this town have a library card. And our patrons have taken advantage in the last year of 504 library programs in all different formats. For over 44,000 times, we've had 44,000 attendees. Programs like a Women and Money series, health programs like preventing Lyme disease, informational programs about Social Security, Medicare, long-term care. And we've had regular meetings of young adult activists who try to find ways to make the world a better place. And that's just to name a few. In our new library, we're going to continue to provide the same high-quality, personalized service that our patrons have come to expect. And as we open our new building, we're planning for a surge of excited patrons, many who haven't used the library before, many who may have been there, but it's been a long time, and of course our regulars that have always kept coming. We're always about literacy at the library, but libraries are about so much more than just books now. And our modernized library building is going to give us the ability to move into a future where we have something to offer to every single person in this town. So I want to talk about some of the new spaces and services that we're going to have in this library. We know for a fact that there's a lack of meeting room space in this community, and we are going to have 2 public meeting rooms, places where our nonprofits, our businesses, outside, book discussion groups can come. And one of the meeting rooms has a monitor in it that people will be able to hook up their laptop and do either a Zoom a Zoom meeting or do a conference presentation. So we have these 2 lovely new spaces. We also have 3 study rooms where people can come in and get assistance from a librarian to set up a remote job interview, a telehealth session. That's also a place where students or tutors can come in, or people who are working remotely and just need to get out of the house away from the racket. Also, we have a brand new dedicated teen zone. This has been standard in most libraries for a long time now. This is going to be wonderful for our teens. They're going to have their own space for books and programs and a place to socialize. It's going to be a supervised area. So we know for a fact that our teens are not just large children, nor are they small adults. So it's really important to have a space where we can provide services that are unique to them. We now have a story room that is right in the children's room. So people who have a small child can sit outside and read to them in the picture book area while their older child is in a program in the story room. And one of the very, the highlights of the new building is going to be our bandstand replica. That's a space where kids can sit and play while their parents talk, or they can read a book, or mom and the child can read a book. So it's going to just be a great fun play zone. And in addition, our new space is all ADA accessible. We have a space where when people come in the back door, they're going to be able to access, and I call this like the direct line for the seniors, because they're going to be able to access the new books, the large print books, the audio-visual materials, magazines and newspapers, and our beautiful new reading room with the fireplace that's like a living room. So that's all on the one floor when people come in the back door. We have a collaborative space for entrepreneurs and homeschoolers and student groups. This is going to be a place to run programs that might teach entrepreneurs to use software and equipment that helps them create branding and marketing products to promote their businesses, or a place where teens can learn about robotics and get excited about coding, or a place for creative crafting using novel materials and processes. And we also are planning on having a library of things. And this is things like tools or gardening or crafting equipment, things that people use occasionally, but they don't want to spend the money to go out and buy. You can come to your library and you can borrow it for the week. Yeah.
I hate to interrupt you.
It's okay.
I think one of the great jewels of the new library, take everybody up to the second floor, look
Yes.
at that architect's window overlooking the green, go
It is.
into the river.
Yeah, it's-
Magnificent, absolutely magnificent. Sorry to interrupt you.
That's okay. We
but
have,
I
so
was
that's the
on
other thing.
tour,
We have a
and
magnificent.
I just stood there in awe looking at
Yeah.
that, and the view you get from that.
Yeah,
It's
and we're
just
going to have seating in front of that. Yeah.
Spectacular.
Yep. So yeah, and that space is going to have seating, the like upholstered chairs with like a flip top desk where you can sit with your laptop and, you know, just look out and do your work.
And also, Lauren, in the children's center, you're actually going to have a replica of our wonderful bandstand.
Yes.
Yeah.
It will be in there for
Yeah.
the kids and
Yep.
story time.
Yep. Plus
It's
we'll
going to be
probably
pretty
run-
cool.
Yeah, it's going to be very cool. It's
Right,
gonna be
Sue?
Very cool.
That's what I'm talking about.
So I want to just say, before I move on to the next slide, I want to point out that the library is a community partner, and we have collaborated with other organizations and agencies in the past, and this is going to be a very important aspect of our future initiatives as well. In the past year, we have held regular storytime programs for the Children's Center. We have worked with Camella's Cupboard to distribute new holiday books at their food bank. That was a project that was actually funded by the Friends of the Library. We worked with the New Milford Historical Society on a Halloween cemetery tour, and we have teamed up with youth services agencies on a few different occasions on initiatives like What Does Your Heart Beat For, and the murder mystery that was performed at the Max and the Senior Center. And already under discussion for the future, we are talking about coordinating with social services on a Money as You Grow series to educate children and their parents about responsible use of money. So that program goes hand in hand with the social services series that has been going on to educate adults about financial responsibility. We have reached out to the New Milford Refugee and Resettlement program to assist them in getting settled in the community, and we'll be offering up all of our library services to them as they come in. And we are working currently with the Gardening Club to provide programs and pollinator-friendly gardens to go along with our Bee City initiative. In addition, we are to collaborating with community agencies. We are very committed to serving people in the community where they are. So our staff has already started to go out into the community to provide programs and services that benefit local businesses and help people who can't easily make it into the library. Some things that are already happening and are in the works include a monthly book exchange that takes place at the Senior Center, and we have in plan to start in March to go to the Glen Eyre Senior Apartments, to go to Butterbrook Apartments, and do these book exchanges. We're also setting up programs from the youth to get together with the seniors. So they're going to be going there to play games with the seniors, to do a youth senior book discussion. And so we have a lot of ideas in our head. We're going forward with this, going out to these places where these people really cannot make it into the library. We have, Access 360 is our platform for downloadable ebooks and audiobooks. And we have set up a program called Access Community Share Program that started taking place during the pandemic. And what this does is it allows our ebooks to connect with the school ebooks. And so we were able to share all of our ebooks through the school ebook platform by using this. And since the pandemic started, we have shared 10,897 ebooks to students and teachers. My team went out to the schools and trained the teachers in how to use this. And this was so helpful to the schools, especially during the time when they were completely closed and kids were working from home. Our young adult activists at the library recently went out into the community and they spoke to different business owners, and they created a video called Shop Local. And so this was just like a really great promotional thing that they did for these town businesses. And in the works right now, we are planning on doing story times to entertain children while their parents are taking adult ESL classes at Literacy Volunteers on the Green.
That's awesome.
So these are just some of the things that we're working on, and there's so much more that we are planning to do. And as our updated library opens, my full-time staff is going to be very heavily involved in outreach and collaborating and expanding our reach into the community. So, the budget. So because of our circumstances, our budget is more complicated than it has been in the past. As you know, our staff, we've been working on very limited staff for the last year. For starters, I just want to say that our materials, supplies, and contractual fees have basically held steady, and that is because, as I said, we have continued to buy books and downloadables, and all of our databases are still active, so all of that stuff is still functioning. So I'm using the fiscal year 22 budget as a comparison for my new budget. So you see 391,202. But the personnel budget is a special situation. So the last time that the library was budgeted for a full year of staffing was fiscal year 1920. So that's going to have been 3 years ago. But that was the closest number that I had as a fair comparison. Because you can see in 21-22 that our budget was reduced to 624. And we were at 660 back in 1920. So we are anticipating a full reopening for the 2023 year. And so for comparison purposes, you can see the total 21-22 budget comparison number was $1,015,344 at the bottom in yellow. I tried to colorize this to try to make it a little clearer. But to try to get a better comparative number, I took the contractual supplies fees from 21-22, and I added it to the personnel from 1920. And that number was $1,051,720. Okay? Any questions about that? Is that clear? So, and so as you can see, we're making a request for an increase here. And the majority of my request for $824,000 in staffing reflects heavy increases that have taken place in pay since the 2020 fiscal year. Contractual and cost of living increases, increases to minimum wage, which in the 2020 fiscal year was $11 an hour. And also the changed job market due to the pandemic. Our key hiring pools for part-time workers are parents of school-aged children and recent retirees. And both of those pools have been drastically reduced. These two demographics are among those who have decided simply not to work during the pandemic. Recent salary study demonstrated that the cost of hiring part-time library associates has increased by $5 an hour since the 2020 fiscal year. So this is my request for the budget, and I want you to know that we can go back if you have questions, but that the New Milford Public Library still offers the best value for your money when compared to other libraries in the state that are closest to us in population and Anglic wealth rating. Our per capita appropriations were $36.41. That was when we were fully staffed. I'm using the 2020 year as a comparison because if I used last year, it wouldn't make sense. It would be worse. You can see that the closest per capita appropriations by another library was $57.44. That's $21 more than New Milford. So even with our requested increase, our per capita spending only goes up by about $6 per capita. And in addition, that spending is very well used in the community. If you compare our 14,000 registered borrowers to the same group of libraries that are spending a lot more money. And so I would like to know if you have any questions for me tonight.
Katie?
Yes.
Thank you, Lorna, very thorough. Two questions. First one is, tell me how many substitutes are there and what do they do?
So substitutes, I have not yet planned on hiring, but what substitutes do is they
there
fill
are substitutes in your
Right.
budget for $26,500.
So the substitutes will be filling in for people who call out sick. So if somebody calls out sick or goes on vacation, then we're still paying for the sick or vacation time. And so we have to bring somebody in to fill that space.
Oh, how about, in most offices, somebody steps up and takes over. Vacations you plan for, I assume. I just think you have it in here and you don't even know that you're going to need it. Where was it in the 2020 budget, whichever one you used for this? Where was that in that budget?
It was in that budget.
Okay.
It was 17,000. So
And was it all used?
no, because that year, remember, we shut down early because of COVID.
I'm just asking, was it all used? No. Okay.
So
Yeah, I understand. Okay, so they're to take over when somebody is out, calls in sick, whatever. Okay. What about the volunteers there have been plenty of volunteers over the years who came in and helped out in the library. Do you still have those?
Yeah, we are still going to have volunteers, but they don't perform library work. They help in processing books, things like that.
I think they do if they weren't there, someone in the library would be doing it and you'd be calling it library work, right? I don't want to diminish the importance of the volunteers.
We don't give volunteers library work. They're working in the library, but I'm saying that the work that a volunteer does is not the same work that...
So if you didn't have a volunteer sorting, who'd be doing it? A library worker, a person who's employed by the library, right?
Sorting?
You just said that a volunteer would be sorting things.
No,
I asked,
said
what does
a
a volunteer
volunteer
do?
might be helping to process books, but we would give them a simple job.
Okay, but I'm just trying to make a point that the processing goes on whether the volunteer there or not. So they are doing some well-needed, they're doing things.
Absolutely.
Right, okay. So I having been involved in this library process for a long time, one of the things with this beautiful new library is, and this is what we chose the architect who had this vision, is that the sight lines from place to place are there, which were to encourage us and make it possible for us to have fewer employees, because I'd be able to see what was going on over there and also over there if I'm the worker at the desk. And we've talked about this before, Lorna. So I guess I see $26,000 and we're not sure what we're gonna do with it. And I know what you said you were gonna do with it. I'm just saying is that you don't really have a plan for how that came about. I think this is a high amount of money for your staff.
So can
I'm not saying any of them are not worth it. Don't think that. I love every one of them, and they do a great job. However, you have added, I think, somewhere in here, a couple of part-time employees.
I need to respond to this, though.
I want you to. Tell me about the part-time employees.
So here's the thing. If I have a part-time employee, or if I have a part-time employee who calls out sick, or if I have an employee who calls out sick, I'm paying that employee. So now I have to put somebody in to fill in that space. And I have to pay that employee too. So whether it's somebody that I hire specifically as a substitute, or if it's somebody who comes in and gets paid to sit and substitute, either way, I'm paying two people for the same set of hours, you see.
But not for every single time. I mean, this is no different than anybody else. They have a certain amount of sick time, PTO time, or whatever, right? And if I abuse it, then you don't have to pay me. You put your substitute in. I'm not concerned about why you have them if somebody's sick. I want to know how many more have you added? How many more part-time people?
It's not a human, it's filling in hours, is what it is. Substitute is filling in for another person. It's not.
I understand what a
Okay.
substitute does, but I wanted to know why you had so much of it in here. But how many part-time people are going to be new in this library?
3.
And how many full-time people?
None.
None.
I mean, I shifted full-timers from one space to another, but it's the same number of full-timers that we've always had.
So you're hiring 3 new part-time people. In what department will they be working in?
Well, I'm hiring all new part-time people because right now I don't have any.
Okay, well, so what is changed that you need 3 more people than, whenever you get them, than you had before?
So what has changed is that you're talking about sight lines, but in fact, we have, an entire new upper level there, where we're, helping people. This is where we have the meeting room spaces. It's where we have people who need help with the computers are up there. So people who need help, uploading things to a job site. It's where we have all of our printing and faxing. People who need digital assistance, that's on an entirely new floor. So where we used to have a sight line from the circulation desk into that
Yes, I'm
reference
aware.
area, we have no sight line
So you're
at all
planning
now.
to put someone up there all the time?
Somebody needs to be in that space to assist people.
I see. So then we should have thought about that when we were looking at the design of this library, I guess, because that's adding people. Okay, I don't want, listen, I care about the library. I spent a lot of years of my life going through 3 different committees to come to this. But we are at a point here, like in every other department we looked at, Lorna, where we don't have a lot of money to spend. I love the library. We haven't had it open in its new state. We haven't had it open in any state, really, except that you've been handling the books, which is great, that people can still take their books out. I just think that I'm looking at some numbers here that to me look like, we don't know that we're going to use them. We don't know you're going to need them. I know you planned it out. I'm not saying that you didn't, just, I don't know. The Library of Things kind of surprises me that the library is you're going to purchase things to loan to people other than books.
That's the kind of thing when somebody makes a donation that it's something that people like to pick up. Like I have somebody who's interested in providing games right now for the library. That's something that we would provide for a Library of Things.
Okay. Okey doke.
Right.
Thank you.
Yes.
Just on Katie's point, we designed a new library with a lot more options in there, and believe me, I like a small budget, but if you and you're part of the committee, if you design a library with more offerings, you probably have to realize that there is going to be a need for more.
Some things were combined, I have to say. The only thing that really is a major difference is they're on another floor. However, there's communication between people. It's a very, you've been there, right? Since you've been over lately?
No.
Okay. It's very open, very lovely in that regard, that it's very open. So I think it's, I don't want people to think I'm against this. I just am thinking fiscally, Lorna, and you've heard me say this before, so.
No, and I agree with you. It's a big jump. It would be. It's very general what we're looking at here, and it'd be nice to know what the new employees are, exactly why they're needed and what they're going to be used for. And you know,
Okay.
I don't know if it's
So I can speak to that if you would like.
Yeah, I mean, because that's
you
you
know,
know, it is a jump from. I mean, I know part of it is
Well,
minimum wage going from 11 to 14.
The majority of it is really, because don't forget, we're not skipping from 22 to 23.
Yeah,
We're not
going
even
from-
skipping from 20 to 23. I mean, we're skipping
21.
from,
You're going from 20 to 23.
yeah, so it's 3 whole years.
I mean, not normal years. It's normal years where we want $1 an hour more each year. So
Right.
$3 an
Exactly.
hour more.
And
Plus the market. I understand
the
that.
market, exactly. And we, you know, we are, as I said, and I was pointing out, we are reaching out into the community. We are going to be, you know, going and meeting people where they are. That is, you know, my full-time staff is going to be heavily focused on that. And, you know, and part-time people we need to be in the library to run these areas. We have a brand-new teen space. You know, that is an area that needs to be supervised. You have young people in there, and
We have cameras and being
a
put in
camera,
place.
when you've got, you know, middle schools and teenagers.
No, I just want people to understand that there is a system, and people will be trained so that if they're standing at one desk working, they'll be able to see on their monitor what's going on in that place across the hall.
But somebody who's working is not going to be sitting there watching the camera all the time. I mean, a camera
Well, I
is
don't think
kind
they're
of
looking
like,
down at what they're doing every minute either. I mean, this works in other places, Lorna. I don't want to pick this apart with you, but I think that it manages to be done very well in other libraries and other places where you have disparate areas. So I think that the people who work in the library will be well capable of handling it. I just don't, I'll go back to it. I just think that, as Mike just said, there's not a specificity to this. What's the hourly rate you put in for these substitutes that you came up with 26,000?
so the hourly rate is $16 an hour. And I called around local libraries, and that's like at the low end of reasonable. So
I think it's reasonable to be a placekeeper and.
these are
Yeah.
people with a bachelor's degree, that we're expecting them
Really?
to, you know, help the public. They're working on computers.
You just said that they weren't going to do the work of the library person who's out ill. They were just going to be processing and
What?
filing or whatever. And now you're saying they're going to do the work.
No, you've misunderstood something here.
I understood.
You misunderstood.
I asked you
There.
what the substitutes would do.
No, the substitute, all right,
Just like a substitute teacher, you pay the teacher that's home sick, but you're still paying the sub.
Thank
Right.
you.
But what is
Yes.
this, I asked you what the substitute would do, and you said they wouldn't do the work that a normal library person would do.
No, I didn't say that. You asking me about volunteers. You were asking me about volunteers. Volunteers do
okay.
not do the work that
I
a
thought
normal
you understood I
normal
meant
library person
substitutes.
does.
Sorry if that's not the case. So, okay,
So these are people with responsible jobs. They're helping people. They're doing readers advisory. They are expected to be in the know about what kind of programs are going on in the building. You know, they are assisting people with questions that they have and with research. And, you know, and like I said, there's an expectation for a bachelor's degree in all of these positions. And yes.
Yeah, I'm just simple math. If you take the 650 that it was, or 648, times the percent increase in minimum wage, you're at 824. or not 824, you're at 827. It's, the minimum wage is a good portion of that. I mean, I don't, you probably don't even have that many extra hours. I mean, I don't like budgets increasing, but I'm a businessman too, and we've been increasing our costs. And unfortunately, because of the economy, I can't increase my prices. It's just not, it's the Connecticut, it's an unfunded mandate. The minimum wage is an unfunded mandate that we all have to deal with at town. And I really feel bad for the youth agency because, you know, they really have to pay a lot more hours and with that same amount. So I don't want to see an increase in budget, but just pure math, I don't know how you can cut much more from that.
Anybody else have questions?
Thank you. Thank you, Lorna. Okay, could you do me a favor and go back to the slide where you're listing the new, it was the first one, I think, that one. Okay. And the additional square footage of the library, now, the new library?
It's an extra 4,000 feet, but it's a whole extra floor.
Okay. Okay, and so I'm thinking we have added some liability on the library's behalf, and I'm concerned about having enough supervision for the extra liability. You've got spaces and places and needed supervision, so I don't have as much trouble with the increase. I have, you know, I am concerned that we, as a community, spent decades creating this wonderful opportunity that's about to be completed, and then we're going to underfund properly staffing it. So I don't agree with underfunding it. We need to do the right thing. People will have expectations when they walk into that library, and I think we need to maintain it. We're going to see after the first year what it looks like. You may make adjustments. You may say, wait, those sight lines actually work, and we can do it with less. But until you actually do it, I wouldn't want to find out that we have a problem. I'd rather have it supervised and then re-look at it. The mayor has recommended a reduction in the personnel line.
It matches her number. As you can see, her number matches mine, 824.
It does now. But it didn't
Well,
initially.
Lorna did work to reduce it. I know
Yeah.
that. I
Okay,
told her. I
so-
give her credit for doing it, and it isn't anything that I have against anybody or the library. It's $8.5 million. I spent a lot of my life trying to get it to where it is. So
Right.
I want that, but I also understand that we don't know yet what's gonna happen, and as I said before, not to break a record here, that why not wait till we know?
Well, but I want you to know, okay? I've worked in libraries for a long time. I also want you to remember this other number here, okay? We're not overfunded. And I looked very, very carefully at the layout of this library, at the different kinds of services that we want to be able to provide. And in order to do that, I really, I feel very strongly that, that we're not going to be able to function if we don't get properly staffed here.
And will library hours be the same as they used to be?
So they will be almost the same. We are going to be open 3 nights instead of 4. So other than that, everything is the same.
Okay.
So we're going to shut down on Monday night from 5 to 8. But other than that, we'll be open Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday from 10 to 8. We'll be open on Monday from 10 to 5, Friday 10 to 5, Saturday 9 to 5, and we'll still be open on Sunday from 9 to 1. So we're holding on to our hours with this. Yes.
Thank you.
Just mine's a simple, quick question. You guys taking book donations again yet? I got stacks and stacks.
We really don't have anywhere to put them yet.
I tried that.
When are they, is that starting up eventually?
When we have space in the, in the library to put things. No.
Thank you so much. I also had a question about substitutes. You answered part of it, but I'm curious to know how the substitutes might break out. So I could see that when you were talking about it, and it's clearly understood if someone calls in sick, you would have a substitute. But
Right.
is there a portion that you're thinking of for more like long-term subs? So someone goes on disability, someone needs to take an extended leave, is a portion of that to cover that type of more longer term
No, I mean, this
stuff?
covers all of that. I basically, I used the percentage that was used in the 2020 budget. That was how I came up with this number. So that was the closest that I could come.
And how did it work out in 2020 as far as, well, when 2021, I don't have it here,
Well-
whether it was all, I don't know how much of the budget was left or not used or any of that.
So I can look into that and find out for you, but I have to
Well,
remind you
I'll
that
look
in 2020, even though we were budgeted for a full year of staff, we
Right.
shut down in March.
I'll
So
check it and
we
see.
missed a quarter or more, right?
Thank you. The meeting rooms, how do you plan on working that? Will they be first come, first serve? Is there a charge?
No, so we have yet to work out our policy on that. So I can't tell you exactly how it's gonna work, but I can tell you that we're gonna have an online registration place. So you're gonna be able to go online and click and sign up to use the space. Or you can call in and use the space. I feel very strongly that a meeting room that's empty is not doing us any good. So if somebody walks in the door and they need to use a meeting room and there's nobody who's registered ahead of time to use it, I'm gonna, let people use it. The more we use them, the better, as far as
I'm thinking of the opposite scenario where nonprofits, who have such difficulty getting meeting rooms today,
Yeah.
will kind of snap up, every Tuesday from 1 to 3.
So, as I said, we don't have a policy yet, but I can tell you that in my old library, what we did was we said, you can register at the beginning of each quarter for, one or two meeting room uses a month or something. So that gives other people an opportunity to get in and use the space. So I'm thinking, in my mind, that's how I'm thinking that things will be set up. But like I said, we don't have a policy in place right now, but that's kind of how you kind of make sure that everybody gets an opportunity, to use the space.
Okay, good. And will there be a charge? Don't
We-
know.
I don't know
Don't
that
know
yet.
yet?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Thank you, Lorna.
Okay, thank you very much.
Next,
Good morning.
Mr. Murphy.
Mr. Murphy.
Building Department.
Oh, yeah, 3 Nordic Repeat.
Yeah, social services are in Candlewood Lake.
Yeah. so I'm gonna have to-
Oh, right on top.
No, Larry won.
Hi, everybody. My name's Bill Murphy. I'm the building official. I've been the building official since July of 2020, and I've been with the town hall, or the building department since 2004. So I always throw something at the beginning of the budget hearings. The Milford's first permit was issued in 1968 by Charlie Treat. It was a single-family house, and there's $17,000 for the cost of the house and $69 permit fee.
Wow.
And that,
Has that permit fee gone up at all?
yeah. An average house today, construction cost, I haven't seen any less than 2 1/4. A small one maybe at 2 1/4 up to whatever. So, see if I get this right. Come on up. Oh, okay.
So that red ball right there will
Yeah.
scroll as far
Oh,
up and
okay.
down as you'd like.
Thank you. Okay, so personnel for this year, 214-025-05, have a building official, an assistant building official, and a office manager. Overtime's a minimum of $200. I do most of it. Luckily, We don't have that much. Sometimes if a car goes into a building or something, the fire marshal calls us and we gotta come out. And, materials and supplies, 3,500, which is code books, office supplies, in case we need another laptop or something. We're in pretty good shape. We got, new building codes are coming in October 1st of this year. And, so we'll have a whole new set of code books to go through. We keep code books and we keep them on our iPads too, but, people still like to read through come in with the code books. Here's some stats. These are from beginning of the fiscal year to the end of the year here. We did 1,115 permits were applied for. The revenue for the first half of the year is 309, 124, 63. We did 1,412 inspections. Permits actually issued 1,314, and the total construction cost 30,343,515.31. That's one of the biggest ones we've had. The last quarter of the fiscal year was one of the biggest ones we've had for construction costs. I was looking at a couple things we did. We did over $2 million in solar panels the last 3 months of 2021, and that's without the Canterbury School one, that's like a $2 million project on its own. But New Milford is doing renewable. We do a ton of solar panels. So, and I probably don't have to tell you that construction is off the charts still. You know, everything's going good. Just a couple of notes. We went paperless in 2010 with our online permitting, and you know, a couple of years of back and forth with it. But we've been paperless. We're totally paperless now. Everything that goes out of our office is electronic. All our permits, COs, communication, even files. People ask for files today. They don't have to come in and wait in the office while we pull the file out. We take the files, we scan them, we put them up online on our online permitting, and they're available for the people to see. So it's worked out good.
And if you take a look at the revenue piece, you can see the revenue's up 50,000. It's on page 24. And the reason why the revenue, because I know Councilman Cosgrove's on the phone, is because of the strong demand that we're seeing. So we'd asked Bill if he felt comfortable raising the revenue. And
yeah, I try to be conservative with that, but it was time. It's been going up and you know, the real surge came right at the beginning of the pandemic. It's been crazy ever since the pandemic started. Construction's been crazy. So.
And if you look at the expense line on page 133, you see that the suggested budget is $217,725. So for every dollar that's expended by the building department, he's bringing back $2 to you. The town as reported revenue.
One good thing about our business is, you know, we have set building permit fees that are based on value, and I think they were relooked at by the council in 2004, 2005, because they were like way low, and that brought us up into like the middle to the pack, a little bit higher. But we go on cost of construction, so even though we get so much 1,000 for our permit fee, the value goes up, so our permit fees go up all the time. Just goes up with inflation. So I've never come back to, you know, I've looked at them through the years, but I've never come back to say, hey, we should review them, because they're still pretty good after all these years. But
how would you compare with other towns with those permit fees?
As far as permit fees?
Yeah, how do we compare to other towns?
We're right in the mix. You'll find a couple, like Kent's extremely low, but we're comparable with Bethel and Newtown, Southbury. You know, we're all around. We get $32 for the first 1,000 of value and $11.76 for each 1,000 thereafter permit fees. So we're right. Most of them are in in the high 20s to low 30s. No real super high ones, even in the cities. There's no real super high ones, so. The online permitting's just been a blessing, you know. I tell the story, Pete and I talk about it all the time. Young tradesman putting a boiler in, he can go on his phone in the morning, he's gonna go do his boiler, he goes on the phone, he pops in his permit. Me and Sean are in the office, we see it, we look at it, we approve it. He pays it online, he goes and does his boiler. While he's taking the old one out, he sends me a video with pictures of the installation, the clearances and everything. Before he's left the job, I've given him his final certificate, all on the same day.
That's great.
And we're probably, I'd say, close to 90% of online payments now. Very little checks. It's amazing how many people want to pay, you know, with online. They either do an e-check or they use a credit or debit card. So, you know, we're not bringing, waiting for checks and running them down. And all the building permits, all the files, and all the plans are online. So, library included. When we're done with the library, as you know, there's been changes along the way.
Oh, yeah.
The library's going to give me a digital copy of the final plans with all the changes. It'll be attached to their permit online for anybody to see there forward.
Well, we hope so.
Yes, we hope so.
It sure has changed a lot from how much time it took before, huh?
Yes, yeah. And we during the pandemic, we went from total video and pictures to, we're hybrid. We still do certain things with, we found certain things work great with videos and FaceTime and pictures, and others don't.
Right.
That we go back out on.
Sometimes you gotta be there.
Yes, exactly. And the customer's been good. Some of we've tried to work with the homeowners. We've actually done more pictures with the homeowners because they were worried about us coming in and stuff like that.
Right.
Like the contractors on the job, we ask them just to sit in their truck and have a coffee so we can go in and, do our inspections and stuff.
Hopefully we're behind.
So we're not mingling, but
Well, you're,
the online system is a godsend, so.
well, we're happy about that revenue, Bill. You're doing a great job.
Okay.
Any other questions for Mr. Murphy?
Where do you go for Dunkin' Donuts in the morning?
I go through the drive-through, sorry.
Oh.
I still go, I just go through the drive-through. Yes, ma'am.
I have questions about the personnel line. Could you talk to me a little bit about some of the increases here? So
Sure.
I understand where they're coming from, specifically the assistant building official wage, which looks like it's increasing a little bit
Yep.
more than the 2
Yeah.
to 2.5%.
So I'll give you a quick, I'll run backwards and then come forwards.
Perfect.
1920, our personnel line was 240,000. We had 3 inspectors and a part-time office manager. The building official retired. I replaced him. And we went to 2 inspectors and a part-time office manager. So our last year, our personnel was 180. This year, I've been asking Pete to get our office manager back up to 40 hours. Our office manager was cut in the 2010 budget from 40 to 20 hours. And we've been trying to get it back. We've had to wait our time, but we've been so busy.
Right.
So Pete said we could have her back 40 hours. And the assistant building official, his job title now, he's an assistant building official, mechanical inspector. And my job before I took the BO job was assistant building official 1. So I basically acted as a deputy building official. I replaced the building official for meetings, and if they were out, I acted in the place of him. So when we went down a position, went from 3 to 2, I wanted to take our assistant now and move him up 1 pay grade, so he'd be in that thing, so he'll have more responsibility, and I can use him, basically as a deputy that's kind of how it's always felt. The number 2 guy's been like the deputy building official to fill in and stuff, so.
Okay, so it's reflective of increased responsibilities, his
Correct,
increased, or
yep.
that position. And then the building technician is basically going from part-time to full-time, is that correct?
Yep, yeah, she was split, she worked for us full-time, and in 2010, she worked 20 hours for us and 20 hours for the fire marshal.
Okay, got it.
They split it that way.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions for Mr. Murphy?
Mayor?
Thank you, Bill. Oh, Chris, did you have a question?
Yes, please. So, as you thought, you did answer my question on the revenue before I even asked it, so I appreciate that. But I love the paperless system. That's phenomenal. We need to do more of that across more of the town. But just in general, and I don't know if this is a fair question to ask, but what is the average cycle time between when an inspection is requested and to when the inspection is completed?
Most of our inspections from requesting no more than 48 hours.
Got it. Okay.
Never, unless it's a huge, even like the library. I go up the library like twice a week, just on my own. I go up, so I don't let the work build up to be a
right.
a 2-hour inspection. But no, normally no more than 48 hours.
Terrific. Thank you. Great job, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you. Next,
Thank you, Bill.
Next, Ivana, Social Services. Ivana?
So you've been busy these last few years?
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor, Town Council, and Board of Finance. Let's get the right clicker here. So as you can see, I'm representing the Milford Social Services. For those of you who may not know me, I'm Ivana Butera. I am the director for the last 3 years, and yes, 2 of them was exciting because of COVID.
Not that it wasn't exciting before that, but.
That's true. That's true. So the mission of social services is to offer resources and programs to enhance the well-being and the sustainability of those folks, those residents that are experiencing financial hardship in our community. And we do that by addressing basic needs, such as food and other household needs, and we try to help them increase their self-sufficiency. We do that through assessment and intervention. We do that through programs and financial assistance. And we do that through referral to additional resources like state, federal, and other local services. And basically, we do try to support our community any way we can by trying to empower those in need to increase their resiliency. So in terms of the specifics of the budget, about 97%, most of our budget is really supporting the workforce. It really is a small workforce. As you can see, we have one office coordinator, 40 hours. She's our only ASME worker. We have a director, who is also a social worker. We have a master social worker who also is the volunteer coordinator, who is also the food bank coordinator. And if you can see the little arrow, she basically supervises 15 to 20 weekly volunteers, mostly in the food bank, office assistants, and then of course special projects, which I also help supervise with that. Last year we had over 1,200 visits from those volunteers and banked about, as you can see, 5,800 hours, which equals more than 2 full-time hourly staff positions. We also have another social worker who is also our diverse community advocate. And basically what that means is that we have seen an increase in our community of folks who come from a diverse background. Their first language may not be English, and this social worker is trilingual.
In addition to English, she speaks Spanish and Portuguese. And then very little, we have a small part of our personnel budget is for coverage to per diem workers. The budget only covers their office coverage, and that is when our office coordinator is out, since she's the one who mans the phone and mans the front end. And currently, she's doing that with a 20-hour a volunteer who produces about 20 hours of extra time, helping us answer phones, answer walk-ins, and then help the needs to support the needs of the social workers.
I don't mean to interrupt you. What do you pay the per diem person?
$15 an hour. And then it happens to be the same workers who happen to work seasonally for SNAP at the farmer's market, also at $15 an hour, but that is a set supported separately by the program itself. That is not in the budget, but it's, they do triple duty actually. They're also two of our volunteers. So it's like, we tend to have a small group and wear several hats. So we call ourselves a small but mighty.
You get a lot of work out of everybody in that office, I have to say, even the volunteers. I don't know how you do it.
I'm not sure how we do it either sometimes, but I'm just grateful that we do. Okay. So I tried to break down some of the services that we provide, and I wanted to point out units of service. Last year, this is fiscal year basically, is over 11,000 units of service. And, you know, what does that even pertain to? Last year we did 39 housing applications for financial assistance, 67 emergency financial, over 300 heating. We served 9,000 households throughout the year, duplicate households, but 9,000 bags went out, or bundles went out during food bank. 200 visits to SNAP at the farmer's market, 900 through the holiday programs, over 200 for back to school. So these are basically, it's addressing any of the needs that we do. All of our programs, there's no cost to them, there's no cost to the community, there's no cost to the budget, and of course there's no cost to the people who are using them. Over 260,000 we provided back to the community, to either our residents, or they went to businesses, maybe paying an oil vendor, local merchants, car repairs, medical, pharmacy, and the proprietors to landlords. So that is monetarily, that's actually a low figure because there was a lot of safeguards last year for COVID. The federal government stepped up and either prices were lower, programs were out there that were helping people. So right now, just our heating program alone, we've already brought $230,000 back into the community, and that is for electric and our fuel vendors. So that's not even counting all the emergency assistance that we're currently conducting. And our food bank is one of our biggest programs. Last year, we registered over 1,800 people, adults, children, and seniors. That was an increase by several hundred people due to COVID. We did see an influx over the last couple of years of folks coming in. We are now leveling back out in terms of some people are back to work, they're finding other means, and then so that's leveling back out, but we'll probably still see at least 1,400 people that will register through the food bank. On average, that's about 250 families a month, unduplicated families a month, and each of them are coming either once a week or 4 times a week, so we're seeing right now about 150 to 150 families, 55 families coming through. I believe we've already served over 54,000 meals, and we've already completed about 4,500 bundles of food. The reason why I say bundles is I used to, old habits die hard, and I used to say bags, but they're not leaving with 1 bag of food. Something that I'm really impressed, and I love to share about the food bank over the years is that we're not just a food pantry, but we're a place to offer nutritional staples for these folks. We have wonderful relationships with local farmers and the grocers. We're members of the Connecticut Food Share, and so we're able to provide meat. We're able to provide dairy products. We're able to provide fresh vegetables really all year round now that we have a relationship with our grocers. And our farmers have been absolutely fantastic with us. So they're leaving usually with 3 or 4 bags of food. So, which is why I'm trying to get used to the word bundles and not bags. Some of the new things that we're done this year, I'm going to go a little bit out of order. One of the things towards the bottom is that one of the things that we really love to do is, in addition to what we're able to do one-on-one with our folks, is bringing in other community providers and bringing them to where our folks are at. Transportation is difficult. We have a public transportation system that can only go so far. It's expensive, on a tight budget. It's going to be hard to manage that. So we were very fortunate this year to be able to bring a career navigator in. They started back in October. We only took the month of December off, and so far we've referred 27 people to their services. And that's really trying to connect them to jobs and job training, and trying to open up those opportunities so they themselves can hopefully gain better employment or a future career. And again, adding to that self-sufficiency and that improving their own well-being for their lives. We've also welcomed back VITA, which is the Volunteer Tax Preparation Services. They came to us a couple of years ago when the library shut down. And we were very excited to have them because, again, that's where our folks are at. And so they're finally back in person. We have developed a wonderful relationship with them. So they've really helped a lot of our folks, especially last year. Even though they were virtual, we have some folks that are non-filers. We have parents that are disabled, but they have children, and they were missing out on stimulus checks. So they needed to really file. So they really worked closely with us, so we were able to fill that gap and really try to reach out and get those services to those folks. And now that they are kind of, they're in that system, they were then provided that advanced child tax credit and have been able to provide a little bit more to their families in the time of their need. So we're really, really excited to have them back, and they're here 2 times a week in our program room. And I put in United Way Healthy Savings for the last one because it's really fairly new, but it's, again, we've always been a partner with United Way, but to physically have them in our space on Food Bank Day, again, that's where the people are at, and Healthy Savings is a way for them to receive $10 of additional funding to help them buy produce at one of our local grocery stores. So it's been great because basically it's like they're picking up food. You want to sign up, right there. United Way's right there. Let's sign you up. Let's get it. A week later, card's in your hand. You go to the store and you're getting more funds. And that's helping. So, this is what we try to do. We foster our relationships. We increase that opportunity. And whether it's the physical space, education, or whatever, we try to fill that and to be there. Moving back up then in opposite order, I pointed out Unite CT. Many of you may not know what that is, but Unite CT was a Connecticut agency that was created through the American Care Rescue Act to assist renters with back rent, future rent to a certain amount, and some utility costs. And it really was a COVID response based on the federal government and Connecticut's response to that. So how are we involved? Our social workers stepped up to help these folks. We either, we connected over 100 households to the site themselves. Some of them have been able to navigate that themselves. But personally, our 2 social workers helped with 46 households. I didn't count the landlords, but there's a lot of communication there because the landlords also have to apply. And so we've tried to work hand in hand. So we basically became a partner and an advocate between those 2 parties with the state agency to try to connect people with rental assistance and try to help improve their situation. I don't have the latest figures, but Unite CT, I believe, has already helped in New Milford. I think they've already provided over $300,000 well over $300,000 to rent for the Milford residents, and we're probably close to 200 applicants right now. But I apologize, I meant to grab the latest figures and I did not. So then I'm going up to financial education. And this was extremely exciting this year for us to do this. We have always been about not just providing that short-term financial assistance that, you know, let's help pay for that car payment or that, you know, part of your rent or your mortgage. But what can we do to help you understand your money in a better sense? Provide that literacy, that education to, you know, maybe devise a different kind of budget, spend within the means that you have currently until you can increase your means, and so forth. And so last year, I worked with actually one of our volunteers who was educated in a curriculum, a 36-week curriculum. We worked together to bring this program to New Milford. We originally had 15 respondents who tried to start the class. We challenged them. It was a 36-week class. It was 2 times a week. We went through all of those topics. We went through budgeting and savings, checking, taxing, credit management. I actually could split that up. That was actually 2 sessions. It's types of credit and credit management, so it was 8 sessions altogether. That's a really important topic. Insurance, investing, and paying for college. We graduated 5 students who stuck it out for the full 36 weeks. Again, United Way was a supporter of that program and introduced them to their Alice Saves program to allow them to save money in a savings account, open one up if they haven't already, and then earn an incentive by putting in some of their own savings. In addition to that, we also were lucky enough to get Savings Bank of Danbury, who also was able to provide a small incentive for them to open up a savings account. And the feedback we've gotten from some of the participants, it's been great. One of them is trying to be a future homeowner. So right now she's just, you know, she ran over to the Savings Bank of Danbury the next day. She was able to open up her account, and hopefully she's doing well and moving on. But she's, you know, she has plans, and she now feels a lot more confident that she's going to reach those goals of hers. We're looking to continue that this year. Currently, we are actually in the middle of a short session. We decided for this month we were going to bring back taxes and introduce that. We have 4 students attending that. And that is really trying to help people understand how to fill out W-4 forms, how to understand W-2s, 1099s, the basics of tax returns. Of course, we're not going to be doing tax returns, but they really do need to understand what they're doing, how they're filing, what are their choices. And then the cycles of taxes, and of course reading your pay stubs and understanding them. You know, employees really do need to understand what is going on with their money, and you know, employers can make mistakes, and so you need to really know what you're doing, understand what it is, understand the difference between gross and net. You actually be surprised sometimes how some people don't realize they're getting paid this much by hour, but by the time they look at what the check is below, why did their employer take all this stuff out? And so, you know, we do this on a weekly basis, on a daily basis, anyways, but to educate these folks and so to getting them moving forward is very exciting. So we're looking forward to that. We're going to bring that back again next year, and we're fortunate enough to have a wonderful educator that I work with, and together we run those classes. So the next thing I want to mention to you is really who do we help. Sometimes people just don't know what social services does, or who we're there for. And I could easily sit there and say we're there for really anybody. Because there comes a time in someone's life, and COVID was a really good example of that, where things happen. So sometimes, you know, we've got folks that are working minimum wage. We've got folks that are working, I mean, our childcare workers, our food service workers. We have folks that are underemployed. We have, you know, we have professionals of all different sorts, because sometimes it's off season, or there's a hiring freeze, and we've gone through 2008, 2009 with the financial crisis in the housing market. And now, even though we're seeing people go back to work, we're also seeing an inflation of prices. So again, when you're working with a constrained budget, you're working with very, very limited assets. You're trying to pay your mortgage, pay your childcare, make sure your car is working so you can get back and forth to work, and then all of a sudden the cost of food goes up, or the cost of gas goes up, and the gas goes up, oil goes up, and we've seen those prices this year too. So we're there for any of those folks. So I could, continue to add anything to this list, and that's what we attempt to be there for. And then these are our partners in service, and I make this a slide at the end because, as it says, we don't do this alone. We are a small group. We do what we can with what we have, but we do need our community. In addition, our community needs us. We work very, very closely with other communities, other members of the community. Anything from, a group that wants to donate food, wants to raise money for coats or back to school. We connect them to those folks. We have community partners like United Way. Here they have this healthy savings program. How are they going to get the word out to people? We become a tool for that, and we connect them to those services. So it's a very wonderful coexisting relationship. We are so appreciative of the people that we work with, the other nonprofits that we assist as well as they assist us. Some of them, in small print up there, you might see our town departments. For Park and Rec and the Youth Agency, they do receive scholarship money, as you guys have heard tonight from Jason. And Park and Rec also receives scholarships, but they ask us to vet those folks, to keep things confidential and private. And also, it's another connection. If it's a new family and they come to us just looking for that child care scholarship to see if they qualify, they may not realize that they also qualify for heating assistance. They also qualify for some sort of an emergency assistance that maybe in the meantime they're sitting there going, well, I could pay for my child care this month if my car didn't break down. I can say, we can probably do both, and then you can get back up on your feet, maintain your savings, and not be depleted, and move forward with what you're doing. So we become a service to other fellow departments. And then Laura mentioned the library, which is that second piece of the financial education that we really hope gets running. We talked about this a few years ago. But of course, with COVID and the library closing, we had to put it on hold. So as we work with the adults in the community for financial literacy, one thing that I found in my time there is if you help working with the children to help them understand money, the parent also will learn. So it's a lovely way for that to be a family involvement, and you're never too young to learn that. So we work with a lot of folks to do that. Okay.
Katie?
Ivana, of course, I know that you do everything. So I just want to say, you have 4 people in the office. I realize you have a couple volunteers and a couple per diem people. How many people would you say, I've been there many days and I could take a guess, but how many people, do you keep track, how many people you serve on any given day, week, month?
It's really hard for the pace of our work to do that.
It certainly is.
So, on any given day, we could see at least, 10 walk-ins, 30 to 50 phone calls between all 4 of us,
Right.
or 5 of us, you count the, and then, of course, there's the food bank. When those folks come in,
Right.
Most of them, they stop in for other things.
Well, on my time there, when I'm doing something, there are people walk in, say, this man happened today. Somebody needs a card to go and buy clothing. This is a desperate situation, needs a gift card to go to Walmart or whatever.
Right.
I think your vetting of people for other organizations is hard to put a price of what that's worth, because it's very expensive, it's very time consuming, and you have it all down to a science. As far as your financial literacy goes, that's fantastic. The food, everything. I just think you really have run that office to the point of being a perfect model of how to, number one, organize, coordinate, delegate. And I spend enough time there to say that I don't know how y'all do it, actually, but you do, and everybody seems to be pretty happy, which is another thing that's pretty interesting. But I just want to say that you're also very penurious with your budgets. So I thank you for everything that you do. You all of you, 4 of you.
I appreciate
And a
those
volunteer.
words. Thank you.
Any questions for Ivana?
Just curious,
Mike?
what's your thought on the direction, like the number of families that need you? Is it going steady, or is it going down, or is it going up?
I think it may go up. I think we're really are trying to brace ourselves for that.
Inflation.
Yeah, inflation is going to be testing a lot of constrained budgets.
I know, I mean, my wife and I are doing very well, and we still go to the grocery store and get to the end of the month, like, holy crap, where did it all go? I can't imagine people on a fixed budget, how they make it all work.
Yeah, and that's the one thing that's actually wonderful about the food bank is we are under guidelines. There's sometimes we could, we try to help everybody who walks through. And if we can't do anything because the state has a cap or this organization has a cap, at least that we can do is offset that with the food bank. Every little bit helps. And sometimes we sit there and we say, if we can't help you directly with the need that you walked in with, let's see if we can't think out of the box. We'll try to help you in a different way. And by offsetting this, you can put the money that we can't actually put directly there towards that. So
Very good
it all
at
works
figuring
out.
it out. Thank you.
Yes, indeed.
Any other questions for Ivana? Diane?
Mayor?
What is an Alice household?
Can I
That's a
cover that?
very good question. I only chuckle because it's a United Way term, and so I'm staring at the coordinator there who can probably, if I make a mistake, she'll correct me. So Alice is a term that the United Way spent a lot of time putting together by surveying and studying low-income families or moderate-income families. And it stands for asset limited, income constrained, and employed. And people always tell me, do you work with Alice families? Do you do this? Yeah. And I'm like, of course we do, because that's exactly who we work with, right? We work with more than that, but we do work with those folks. But what they were able to do, which is really just incredibly helpful, is I look at a state program, I try to bring somebody, and I've got a family of 3, and the family of 3 could be, an 18-year-old and 2 parents, or the family of 3 could be a single mom with two children under the age of 7. They both make the same amount of income, and the state will provide them the same amount of assistance for, say, oil or something. Alice makes a point of saying those 2 families are quite different, because that single mom with those 2 children may have childcare expenses, may have more travel expenses. And so they try to work their programs to modify their programs and have that flexibility where then they can. Again, we do the same thing. So that's where we start thinking out of the box. But what Alice has done is it has helped open up the eyes of communities at large who just don't quite see or able to conceive what that is. It's able to put a face to it. And it's really helped the kind of work that we do by putting the face on it. But we've been working with Alice, we just didn't name her, for years. But that's who we work with. How'd I do, Katie?
Perfect.
Okay.
Chris, you had a question?
More of a comment. And Katie really said a lot, and I agree with everything she said. Ivana, you and your team really just do an amazing job. And what interactions I've had, people I've brought to you, you mentioned out of the box, and I see you and your people do that daily. And you vet the needs and you try to meet the needs, but you go beyond that. You try to figure out how to get people back on track and to make sure that the need they have may go away. And with the budget you have and everything you do for the community, we're really blessed to have you and leadership and your team there, because you just really do a great job. I can't say enough, so thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
All right. Thank you, Ivana.
Okay.
Appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Ivana.
Next is the Candlewood Lake Authority. And just for those that are new to the town council and to the Board of Finance, the CLA is a partner with the regional towns that surround the lake.
There we go.
They're going to
Sorry
talk a
about
little bit about the budget. It's a little different here as per our charter and per something that was a contract that was signed many, many years ago. We really have no jurisdiction as to the budget. The delegates that we bring on from the surrounding towns, if they approve that budget, that's the budget that we deal with. So tonight, they're just going to give you some edification on what they do. As far as their budget, that is what it is.
Where are we at there? There we go. Yep, great, okay. Well, thank you very much. My name is Mark Howarth. I'm the Executive Director of the Candlewood Lake Authority. I'd just like to take a second and introduce a few of our delegates who are with us. So Joe Wodarski, one of our delegates from New Milford, joined by his wife Sue. Mary Ann Gaffey is our chair of our board, and from the town of Brookfield. And Will Meikle is also from the town of Brookfield, one of our delegates who serves on several committees, but, Joe was on public safety as well, and Will is on public safety and finance, so.
And Joe, who's our delegate, has done a phenomenal job for many years on Candlewood Lake, so thank you, Joe.
Thanks, Joe. Unless there's any questions before I start about our budget, you've all had a chance, I think, to look at it. I just wanted to cover a couple of things about sort of the different departments that you see within our budget. So, I mean, administration is somewhat self-explanatory. But our equipment and facilities department, what our equipment and facilities department does is we're responsible for all of the a majority of the speed and navigation and hazard buoys that go out on the lake. There are approximately 80 buoys that we deploy, maintain, and retrieve every single year that are out there to help for public safety. Of course, we have all of our vessels that are maintained throughout the year and looked after by our equipment facilities department, and all of our docks and things that are put out there. I should mention that last year we got new docks for our boats, which were donated by one of our local marinas, so that was very kind. So we got a great donation there for our docks. Our public safety department is our Marine Patrol. So we are out there almost every day from throughout the boating season, from May through into October. And we're out there enforcing boating law. We are responding to emergencies and incidents that happen out there on the lake, and we are out there educating. So actually last year we wound up increasing our contacts with boaters by about 50%. We worked on being very proactive last year to reach out to boaters and help educate. We worked at the ramps and seemed to have a great impact. Our public awareness department, that's primarily our outreach that we do. Most of it is virtual now, online. So we have a new website that we launched last year. We increased our social media following by leaps and bounds, especially on platforms such as Instagram. And we also do events for the public, including, thankfully it's back, Village Fair Days this year. So we look forward to returning to Village Fair Days. And then we have our watershed budget, which maybe I can get it renamed someday. I think it'd be better named Lake Ecology, right? It's our ecology. So that's where we are working to protect the environmental values of the lake. Last year we had we were awarded a grant from the state, from DEEP, and we had our first ever paid boat ramp inspections last year, largely funded by that grant, and we were at the 5 town ramps and the 2 state ramps. And we weren't able to be at every ramp all the time, but we rotated between them to offer voluntary inspections for boaters, for invasive species, but also to educate them on what they should do to make sure that their boats are clean before coming into Candlewood Lake and also before leaving. And we also last year doubled our water quality testing, so we have twice the amount of information now to help us better monitor trends in the lake. So that's a little bit about our different departments. I'm actually going to skip slide 1 because I already touched on a lot of that, and I'll probably touch on more of it as we go. If anybody wants to go back to it at the end, I'm more than happy to. So briefly, here's our budget request for this coming year, $129,730. That is actually a 7% decrease over last year's budget. You see last year was $139,281. The reason we were able to decrease our budget this year was in large part due to our revised long-term capital plan. So one of the strategies that we implemented last year, and we had a new patrol chief that joined us. Well, he was our assistant chief. He got appointed last winter, and one of the strategies that we deployed this year was using our PWCs, which are jet skis, during peak periods to focus on really dense areas, places where the boats don't get that easy. So on the island, around the islands, popular gathering spots where boats raft together. And it worked really, really well. And we found out that it had a really large impact. So what we were able to do was, in our capital plan, take out one of the new patrol vessels. We had one new patrol vessel that we got last year largely through a donation from First Light. They donated $100,000 for that boat. So we were able to take out one of the boats that we were planning on needing. We knew we needed more of a presence on the lake. We were able to substitute that through what we learned last year and plan to use PWCs in place of that extra boat. We were also able to postpone the research vessel that we had in our plan by 2 years, and we're going to use that time to look into different options and features. So we were pushing that back a couple of years. So on our budgets here, equipment and facilities, you see that decrease. That's because of the reduction of one boat. That's down 36%, $100,000. The public safety budget is up $34,844. Primarily, that's due to wage increases. Wages for additional shifts. So what we did last year was we added shifts, but also extended shifts later into the night. We were finding that there were a lot of people who would come out on the lake after we came in. So we decided to go out when they thought we were in. And so it worked well to keep the problems that were happening at night down. So we plan to continue to do that and work later into the night and increase and put out additional shifts. And of course, with the extra vessel that we have, there's some fuel and vessel maintenance that's also associated with that. Our watershed budget for our lake ecology, that's up about $14,000. We have a new line in our budget for a lake management plan development. Our lake management plan is a comprehensive document that we're working on with stakeholders from around the towns, New Milford and everybody, as well as DEEP. And this is going to be our comprehensive plan for the environmental stewardship of the lake going forward. So we're looking at all of the inputs for the lake to understand what type of data and information we need to make management recommendations for the environmental future of Candlewood Lake. There is also a cost of living and wage increase for the Director of Ecology. And our administrative budget, you see, is a roughly $10,000 increase there due to, we reviewed payroll taxes and insurance, and we adjusted that accordingly in line with our projections. There's also COLA increases for office rent and salaries in there. I will just briefly also show you, this is our current capital plan as it stands now. So you see that reduction in the cost per town, $20,000 reduction per town off of what we had originally planned. So it's $20,000 for the next several years. You see some of the major purchases planned out from there. That research boat, we do plan to try and fundraise for that boat. Currently, it is in our capital plan, along with the truck that we use to pull out boats, service our boats. And the PWCs, those are from around 2008, so those are getting up there in years. And then finally, the last patrol boat replacement goes in 26, 27. Happy to answer any questions.
Oh, quick one. Oh, go ahead,
Barbara?
Barb.
Can you comment on whether or not that sterile grass carp program is still in place?
It is, yes. So the sterile grass carp program, for everyone, I'll just briefly touch on that. Back in 2015, we put sterile grass carp in the lake, the milfoil, which are the weeds that have been had caused so many recreational problems. We had done a study, looked at different options. Sterile grass carp were brought in. They basically eat the weeds down, ideally to below recreation levels. We did a stocking in 2015 and 2017. That's done under a state grant through DEEP. So every year the lake gets mapped. That's part of what First Light does. We understand how many acres of vegetation are out there. And we work with DEEP, and we are working with DEEP to see when we will be able to do another stocking. You don't want to overstock. You know, it's a little more art than science. You know, you don't want to overstock, so the state's being cautious. And when we see that the carp are getting older, dying off, and things like that, and the milfoil starts to grow more again, we will work with DEEP to try and get another grant to put more in. And we have funding set aside for that already.
Okay.
How are those new boats going?
They're great. I mean,
I know I couldn't. It was just too hard to get it together to get out there and see it. It's still doing well. I hope, right?
It's great. You know, the new patrol boat is an aluminum purpose-built patrol boat, and you know, one of the things that we found, we historically have been out there in center console fiberglass, for lack of a better word, repurposed fishing boats, right? I mean, that's really what they were. They didn't really stand out. Well, this boat really stands out. And so when we're driving down, everybody knows, that's law enforcement. Like,
Good.
you know, like, so it just by being out there, in addition to the other things that it does, it actually really, people see us, and it helps to change behavior, just
Good for
seeing the
safety.
boat. Yeah.
That they're paying attention.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm glad to hear it.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Diane?
I have a delicate question.
I don't know, maybe the chair should answer this one. Go ahead.
So I live on the lake, I swim in the lake, I canoe and kayak on the lake. I've never had an issue. I love the lake. There are so many snarky comments on social media about the water quality, equal number of nice comments about the water quality. Tell us what's going on.
Oh, I was just gonna say, don't go on social media.
There you go.
What is going on with the water quality? It's the water quality has been, if not this. So our water quality testing goes back, I think, to 1983. So we have almost a 30-year database of historical water quality testing, and there's a lot of different metrics which you can look at to say if it's better or worse. Overall, we are at least staying consistent where we've been, and some metrics are actually getting a little bit better. Now, there are certain little things that are like, you know, that are concerning, which is, you know, dissolved solids like road salts and things of that nature, calcium, which are going up which are increasing, which we don't necessarily want. But things like the productivity in the lake, which is, you know, the phosphorus and things along those lines, and the water clarity. We've had some pretty good clear years in recent years. I don't have graphs to pull up, and our director of ecology, if you ever want to talk to our director, Neil, I mean, he does a wonderful job, and he's putting together our annual report right now, and we'll have that ready. But so we'll see what he saw this past year in relation to previous years. But, you know, we've had some really good water clarity years in recent years. So, you know, overall, it's doing well, but we're continuing to try and implement and look to the future with that lake management plan so that we can see, okay, these are measures that we can, recommend to help the water quality of the lake so that in 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, we still have that water quality and people still want to buy houses on the lake and go boating on the lake. So,
You might want to push out that information.
yeah, we will. It'll be on our website. I mean, and what we can do is maybe even more so the presentation that he gives to our board, which at our board meeting, that's a little bit easier maybe for the public. And we actually did two webinars last year, so that was another thing we did. One of them was talking about the water quality of the lake. So he did a really good job. It was Neil and Steve, I think, who's still away, but Steve is one of our other delegates from New Milford, and they hosted two webinars. One of them was just on the lake itself and on the water quality, and they're a great team. We're thinking of signing them up. They they're a great. They got a great response. So we've done really well with that.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions from us? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. So
Thank
I'd
you.
like to
Yes, I will make a point of it. Thanks.
entertain for the town council a motion to recess the meeting till tomorrow, Wednesday, March 2nd at 7 p.m.
So moved.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Katie?
Will you move that? Oh, okay.
Yep.
Right.
So,
Walter
and then
asked- yeah,
Diane,
Walter
as
asked
vice
me
chair,
to-
can you do that for the,
Enter a motion
for the
to
Board of
recess
Finance?
the special Board of Finance meeting to Wednesday, March 2nd at 7 p.m.
Nice to see you.
Thank you.
Coming in person.
Oh, yeah, I just, last thing.
Thanks, everybody.
Pete, my daughter.
This is like the biggest
So-
glaring thing. I just want to say this, right?